All right, so Utica Comets have three signees that are coming back now. As of earlier today, you have Marek Mitens coming back on a two-way. I'm guessing it's probably a 1 year contract. As far as I know, it is. They haven't said anything different. Samuel Laberge got a 1 year, as far as I know, too. He is coming back, and then you have the captain himself, Ryan Schmelzer, as expected, got a contract. He got a 2 year. Not surprising to see him back because he's the captain. You will see him back. It's great to see all three of these guys back. It looks like Mitens, they're preparing for the worst if Dawsey is going up to New Jersey, and that's not surprising. Laberge is back, has good depth. I mean, he proved himself coming out of Adirondack and hasn't looked back, really. And I expected him to be here. And then you have Schmelzer, who's the captain. The captain will stay the captain and stay here. So that one was they were all expected in a way. But with this, what does this mean for the goalie situation with Marek Mitens? Just means they're preparing for the worst. They think Dawsey's probably going to go up, and looking at the stats, he's been here. He knows what he's doing if he has to come here, because I mean, when Dawsey went down and Schmidt went up, he came in, filled out great. He came in, played the backup at times to Schmidt or Dawsey. I don't think he really played backup to Dawsey much. I know he played backup to Schmidt most of the time, so he knows it. He's been here. It was expected for him to stay here, and he doesn't look too bad being here. The only slightly worrying thing on his stat lines really is his save percentage of a .38 or .888, but that I think can be fixed in time. I think it's just because he's between that, and they put him on such a long stretch without break. It's just like that drains a goalie. I mean, it happened to Schmidt, it happened to Dawsey, it happened to Mitens, it happened to all of them where they just had a small stretch near the end where it was just like, all right, they need rest, and you could tell, but he did better than expected for a goalie to come up out of the ACHL and just fill a position, and it's good to see him come back, and I like it. I like having him back. I can't wait to see him back in a Comets uniform, and we'll see how much he plays next year, because we'll probably see him around 15 plus games again at least. If Dawsey does go up, you will, or if an injury chain happens, you will see him come up. You will see him here playing and starting. It all depends on what happens with Dawsey and or Schmidt, because that's we don't know. We really don't. Then you've got Ryan Schmelzer. The captain was expected to come back. It's a good signing. I like it. I'm happy to have him here. I've always liked Schmelzer. He's not one of my favorite, but I've liked him, and he's the captain. He's expected to come back. He had one of his better years this year. Actually, his best in the AHL, playing 64 games, his second most in his career in the AHL, tailing 32 points, 18 goals, 14 assists, and only logging 26 penalty minutes and a plus-minus of 6. And in the playoffs, he played in those 5 games, was 1 goal, 1 assist, no penalty minutes. He did good. He did good this season. I'm glad to have him back. It was by far his best season, not only in the stats, but on the ice. And you could tell. I mean, there was times you'd see him just rolling on a line with Holtz and maybe Zetterlund or whoever would try to be paired, because they've tried 100 different pairings. Or paired up with Gambardella and somebody else on his other side to be a more veteran pairing. Or sometimes they'll get put with a younger line. I mean, he's jumped around, and he's a good penalty. I think he was used a decent amount on the penalty kill, if I remember correctly. Not bad. I'm not surprised to see him come back, and especially after one of his best AHL seasons. I'm expecting some good things from him. And then Samuel Laberge. One of my top 3 favorite players on the team is back. I'm happy. He exploded this year coming out of the ACHL, and nobody expected it. Nobody really did. I mean, he's jumped around. He was in Texas, then he was up and down between Texas and Idaho, the ACHL team to Dallas, and the AHL team to Dallas, and then went to LNAH, then was down to Allen Americans, and then came to Adirondack. So he had bounced around a good amount. He had went from AHL guy to an ECHL guy at that point, and plays 12 games. Has to come up. I forget for why. I think there was a slight injury problem early on or something like that. And he never looked back. He came in and said, "I'm never leaving," and he performed. I mean, he toned down his penalty minutes. I mean, in 18-19 with Texas, he had 70 in 31 games, and he had 81 in 66. He toned it down to 58 through 53. Not bad compared to his previous numbers. He had a 4 on his plus minus, and produced 13 points, 5 goals, 8 assists. And since he wasn't like a top line guy, I'm okay with that. He brought more of an effect off than on the stat sheet, and that's good. I'm glad he did. And it's not his best season in the NHL compared to his first with Texas, but I'd rather have a role player that doesn't necessarily always show up on the stat sheet, but shows up on the ice, compared to one who doesn't usually show up on the ice, but may show up on the stat sheet here and there and kind of inflate his stats a little. But it is what it is. I'm glad to have all 3 of them back. It's good signings. There's nothing really wrong with the signings. Nothing really to be mad about. I'm happy about them. And we'll see what happens. I mean, there's the only real thing that I'm speculative about is what the goalie situation looks like. And that doesn't even entail Marek Mitens, really. It's just, what is this going to look like? But anyways, that's the Comets. It's a good thing that they were able to lock these 3 back in, and we'll see what happens in the near future, because you'll probably see more signings like this. See you later in the week with more content.